I'm glad everybody could come. I'm gonna wait. It's just 11 and I never start anything right on time. Nina always does, but I'll just wait.
Um,
Um,
And before we get started, I have a few comments. Okay, but I'm going to wait till you're ready to actually start the meeting. Okay.
yeah, we'll give everybody a couple minutes. This is a very important topic, and I know Rachel's coming too, so it would be nice to wait for one of the main speakers too. Alex, how's it going?
Good, good. Good to
Good.
be
How's your
back with you all. It's been a long time.
I know, it has been. We've been drinking once a month at JJ's the pub. That was our get together, but we never really talk of anything of substance. So so we've decided we better go and reinvent our Zoom again. Now that we have a reason to stay in because it's been nice and warm and people are on holiday. But anyway, I see a few new people. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to wait until Rachel comes on board. She should be here any minute. And Nina's going to say something because in about 2 more minutes, because we're not going to start too late.
I've never been to one of those socials at JJ's. What happens? Uh-oh.
No, I'm not. You're yeah, no, you're married to a minister. I'm going to keep this simple, No. Anyway, it's what my background is gerontology, and I've been working with older people for 50 years until I became one, and I'm still doing it. Anyway, and it's I find that we're providing a support an avenue of support. And the reason I started this is I spent 10 years in Dublin. And there was something really magical about hanging out in the pubs and the communication, really. And there was some drink, but that was never the issue that I found. I found, just talking to people and supporting them. Like if you were Mr. Jones and you grew up in Westmeath, you would be on Joe's you would be on the same stool every single night, and the whole
I
country
didn't get it to
country
you.
would say,
Honey,
"Hey,
I have a hard drive backup.
Yeah, I know.
And you plugged it in and got it started. And a password happened. I could put it in the regular.
I'm putting the regular.
John and Wendy, I'm going to mute you until you figure out your issues.
That's what I call therapy."
Yeah.
So after about 6 months, they'll get back.
All right. Oh, good. Everyone needs to be here right now, and then people will jump in. So, please say your words that you wanted to say.
Okay, unlike previous meetings, we are recording this because there were members who said they knew for sure they were going to have an Xfinity outage in their neighborhood, and they requested that we record. If you do not want your face to be recorded, please just click the video icon and turn off your camera. And if you don't want your name to be recorded, you can also rename yourself by clicking the 3 little buttons in the upper right-hand corner of your video image. So, you can rename yourself whatever you want. So that's the first thing. The second thing is this meeting is being hosted by the Northampton Neighbors Zoom account. They have another meeting at 12 noon. So I need to end this meeting no later than 11:55, which I will do. I will even chop you off in mid-syllable if I have to, but we've got to be out of this meeting and let the next meeting use the Northampton Neighbors Zoom account. That being said, hello, and I will hand the meeting back to Linda.
I always have to say a big shout out to Nina because she is the techie master of Northampton Neighbors. And if I was in school right now, I would be in the minus group of techie ability, tech ability. Anyway, but so thank you. She saved this association. Thank you so much. Okay, so we've got a lot on our agenda today. And for you that don't know, I'm Linda Desmond, and I just hang out in Florence a lot. So I thought it'd be nice to meet my neighbors. So I'm welcoming you all here. And there's a few things I'll say toward the end, but not now because we've got work to do. Alex and Rachel have been wonderful representatives of the city council for our wards that are part of of this neighborhood circle. And I can't thank you enough for being here today because there's a lot of confusion in the community about the Valley Energy Program, the new electrical Valley Green Energy Program that's out there. And we'd love to hear some of your thoughts. And then following that, if there's any other red flags that you think we should know and be aware of as the voting public here. And then a number of people have approached me to say, I'm really confused about a lot of the ballot questions. And we thought we would have just a join. You don't need to be here for that one, but you're more than welcome, Rachel and Alex. But there's a lot on our agenda for when we go to the voting, when we go and vote in November, and it's time to talk about it a little bit. But we won't talk politics, but we will talk issues. I'd love if you talk politics, and that would take another 4 hours. And anyway. So, Alex, can I welcome you? And would you begin the conversation? And then Rachel, please jump on board.
And I'm going to ask the rest of you to please mute your microphones so that if dogs bark or phones ring, that we don't interrupt the meeting. Thank you.
Great. Hi, everyone. Glad to be here. Alex Jarrett, Ward 5, City Council Representative. And so Valley Green Energy, it's been in the works many years. I remember when I first got on the council in 2020, we were talking about it. And so municipal aggregation, it's a group electricity buying program, and it's approved by the state. And it allows for cities to, by default, switch everyone who's on the standard national grid rate or other company in other towns to this group buying rate. And the advantages are that, well, in this case, it will both save money and increase the amount of green energy that is sourced for your electricity. So the key ideas that the distribution and the generation are separate. That the distribution is still going to be by National Grid. They will take care of all of the wires and if there's outages, etc. And for many years we've been able to choose who generates the electricity that we consume. And so this is another option. And there are probably all of you have by now gotten the two-page document that talks about the different options, that gives you the opportunity to opt out, because the key element is that no one is required to participate, and there's no commitment of time that you must participate for a certain amount of time, etc. At any time you can opt out, go back to the National Grid standard rate, or you can choose another electricity provider. The advantage of everyone being opted in by default is group buying power. That just allows that group buying power means there can be more percentage of green energy and there can be lower cost. I've certainly I have received some pushback from my constituents about that particular element of opting in, but it is legal. It is, and it does allow for, I think, the best outcomes in terms of cost and green energy. So that's an overview. I don't know, if, Rachel, do you want to add anything? I see we have Adele Franks here as well, who is active in all things green energy.
I'm just going to say, yeah, well, if Adele's here, that's wonderful. I mean, Adele's the person I talked to before I even ran on council. And this was, I think, part of both of our platforms, Alex, to to pursue, aggregated community energy. And yeah, just to add, there's no guarantee about cost savings, but, the demonstrated, it's been demonstrated in other communities that it actually does. And we have a good reason to think that that it will be certainly equal the prices, but probably be more affordable, especially if we all opt in. But if Adele's here, she's got a great background in this, so let her talk.
Hi, everybody. I would just like to add that if you have not received either the postcard or the letter, or both, it might be because you have already selected an independent supplier. And that's a big problem for us, because the National Grid has only provided us with the names and addresses of those people who were on the basic rate. So if you've already selected an independent supplier, you would not receive anything. However, if you go to the website, you will be able to opt in, and we will take the group that is hired to take care of these things will opt you out of the independent supplier that you've already contracted with and opt you into the municipal aggregation. So it's an extra step, but an awful lot of people opted into an independent supplier because they thought that it might be a good way to get greener energy, because the independent suppliers tend to advertise in that way. And they promise, 100% solar and blah, 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 100% wind. And it turns out, if you read the small print, that, or if you ask them to document where they're getting their green energy from, it turns out, oops, I'm sorry, I will end this call, sorry. It turns out that they're getting it from a state where, far away, like Texas, where it doesn't actually make a difference, because the renewable energy credits are so cheap there that they can offer them. But the wind energy is so profitable there that's the reason that the renewable energy credits are so cheap, because the companies that are generating the wind energy, for example, are doing so at great profit, and so they can afford to sell the renewable energy credits very cheaply. And so that's a reason that our aggregation has selected only New England Class 1 RECs to purchase, because those are generated in New England and they're more expensive, but they're more local, and they help stimulate the creation of greater green energy. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Adele. That was great new information that I was not aware of. And then the last piece, I think, is that there are 3 options that you can choose from. There's one that you'll be automatically enrolled in, which is the standard green rate, and it's about 14 cents a kilowatt hour as compared to National Grid's basic service, which is about 16 cents. But then you can also choose two others. One is the Valley Green Energy basic rate, which has the same amount of green energy as the current basic service, which is about 13.6 cents. Or you can go for the Valley Green Energy 100% green, which is about 16.5 cents. So just slightly more than the basic rate. You can get 100% from renewable sources. So those are the different options that are available. So are there questions about this program?
If you have a question, unmute yourself and go ahead and ask a question.
Hello.
I have a question. I'm sorry, I don't have video on. My iPhone. Is it okay to ask?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
And then we'll listen to David.
Okay, so I did sign up for independent a while back. I don't think that's expiring until April. So are we required to opt in for Valley Green Energy right now or at its start date, or am I allowed to wait until February, March to get the same three options you just put on the screen? The same rate options you just put on?
I can
I'll
answer that
ask
question.
Adele to answer that question.
Thank you.
Yes, I can answer that question. If your independent supplier allows you to terminate the contract early, you can just opt into the aggregation now, and you will be guaranteed the same pricing options.
And if I want to wait?
If you wait until your contract expires with the independent supplier in April, then you would have to wait until you're put back on the national grid rate, base rate. And then at the next opportunity, probably within a couple of months, you would receive the same information about the aggregation. And so you would be automatically opted in. However, if you wanted to do it sooner, you could get in touch with Valley Green Energy and let them know that you're planning to let your current contract expire, and perhaps they could opt you in sooner.
Okay.
I hope that answers the question.
Thank you.
Dave?
Thank you. Hi, Adele. Dave Reutman here. Long time. So about 10 years ago, Susan and I became members of the Co-op Power Community Solar Program. And it's still a bit confusing to me. I did get a reply from Lynn Benander at Co-op Power saying that we could remain members of that program while having VGE as our supplier. But Adele, you may have the answer, and I'm sure there are going to be others who are interested in this, because our reason for subscribing, leasing solar panels, we can't have them on our house, so we've been leasing them for 10 years, was because we want to help mitigate climate change. And I remember actually back in the middle twos, Adele, when you first started working on this with Darcy, and kudos to you for actually now we can see the results. But here's my question. Lynn did not know of anybody who's done an actual cost analysis of keeping the Co-op Power Community Solar Program and doing VGE. So just one or two more sentences. The basic principle for us is we want to mitigate climate change. It seems to us that the Valley Green Energy Program, especially if we did the VGE 100% green, does that. And so then there's no, potentially, there's no advantage to continuing to be members of the community solar program. But Adele, I know you have a laser-like focus on this, and I heard this already in your words, that a principle here is to support the development of New England sources of clean energy. So tell me, am I making sense enough for you to reply? Okay.
Yes, you would continue to get your net metering credits from the community shared solar array if you become part of the aggregation.
Right.
However, the community shared solar probably sells its renewable energy credits to National Grid.
Right, it does.
So therefore, you can't claim that you are personally using entirely renewable energy. It's a kind of a complication.
I understand.
The system, but the aggregation will purchase renewable energy credits and retire them so that the utilities cannot buy them, which they are required to buy a certain number each year. And if they don't, they have to pay a penalty that goes into the Clean Energy Center of Massachusetts. So it does good things. So anyway, if you opted up within our system, the aggregation system, to 100% renewable energy, you would be able to claim that your house is using 100% renewable energy because we have retired the renewable energy credits. We have not sold them to the utilities. But in the meantime, I personally have a share in the community solar, and I've decided to maintain it. It doesn't provide all of our electricity. It only helps out a little bit. And in addition, I've signed up personally for the 100% renewable option in the aggregation. So take that information under your advisement.
Well, let me just do a quick follow-up. We're in a situation where it's difficult now to maintain our budget because of a variety of reasons. So you probably have a sense, since you've been paying the co-op power charges, they're not insignificant. So I just want to feel like we're doing good for sufficient good. So we would be saving, tell me if this is right or wrong, we'd be saving a significant chunk of money and still doing good for the environment if we stopped supporting co-op power and continue and opted into the 100% VGE green. What we would be doing less is providing less support for the development of New England clean energy. Is that a fair take?
Yeah, and in terms of the budget, your household budget,
yeah,
the community shared solar saves you about 15% per
right.
year off of the National Grid base rate.
Yes.
And our price is 2 cents per kilowatt hour less than the National Grid base rate.
Yes.
For the standard option.
I understand that, but there's charges that we pay, not every month because of the way the sunshine works, but I think at least 5 or 6 months of the year we pay co-op power charges for leasing the and I'd like to remove those charges. So anyway,
I don't know what those charges are that you're referring to. Maybe they're common good charges or maybe.
yes.
That's a whole separate issue.
Okay. I've
And I
taken
can't.
enough time. Thank
Yes,
you.
you
Thanks a lot, Adele.
I see a hand up, Lisa M.
No, Bridget Glacken has had her hand up for a while. I'm
Please,
gonna
please,
ask.
please, more people, so.
So
Thank you,
let's-
Nina.
Yes,
Thank you, Nina. I was just going to give up. I thought maybe they couldn't see me or something, thank you. So my question, I guess, to Alex, but to Dal seems to be fielding these questions. So I'm for 9 years, I've had solar panels that we bought through some wonderful, I'm a homeowner in Florence Center, and many people in our neighborhood bought solar panels with the different rebates that you could get. And so there hasn't been much about our situation. So our situation, and I'm asking this because I do think there are other people who might be in this situation. So we sell our solar energy to National Grid, who's our supplier. They deliver. And in doing that, it's a wash. We don't pay electric bills. And so in the summer, we accumulate, as we make more solar, these negative credits in our bill. And then in the winter, when our heat comes on and all that, it's deducted from our credits. And we also took advantage about 4 years ago. We switched from gas heat to mini splits, which many people have done. There were many kinds of rebates that homeowners were, and I recognize that renters, this doesn't come into it, although I know someone who owns rental properties who's done a lot of this on his rental properties. So it hasn't been in any of the publicity or the information to our community or in the newspaper. There hasn't been anything about us and how this is going to play out for us, but we are making solar, and that solar is heating, cooling, and running our little machines in our house. That's our situation. So
Yeah.
what is how do we fit into this plan? And my second concern is, I know people, one of my neighbors who decided not to get panels is in has a provider, not for his electricity. And I've seen this on social media too. There's a lot of problems that people have encountered in trying to switch out of those, which is not our problem because we didn't, in terms of what I would call, although we don't have paperwork anymore, we have digital work, the digital work. So those are my two questions. Is this going to work? You're a new collaborative. May the force be with you. I hope it works. But there are glitches to switching in and out because who's still in the game, no matter what, is National Grid or Eversource, because they are the deliverer and they are the ultimate bookkeeper. And they are not very easy to get on the phone. I can tell you. Okay, so
Yeah,
about
so
solar
if
panels.
you're
Influence.
either if you're in community solar or you have solar panels on your property, there won't be a change in how those are calculated. So their calculation is not connected to your electricity supply price. I don't know if Adele, you can add anything to that.
No, you've answered it perfectly. It will have no impact on you, on your bill.
I don't have a bill, but
You
anyway.
will still get your net metering credits, no matter
Yeah.
what.
We have no control over what National Grid pays us to buy our solar. That is so, And I think everybody knows that last winter, National Grid and Eversource too, although they're highly regulated by, state regulatory bodies, they raised the cost of electricity in the winter very, very high. And that stung a lot of people badly. That did happen. So they have seasonal rates. So I'm a little confused when you quote the rate of National Grid. The National Grid rate, 60 Mass legislators protested all that and it didn't get them anywhere. So there wasn't
Right.
political power to stop that.
So the National Grid rate is what it is currently that I was quoting. It may change again. What won't change for
floats.
the next 2 years is the Valley Green Energy rate, because that is locked in until November 2026.
That's helpful. I hope you guys get it right with the bookkeeping part. I truly do.
The other
because
question
it's
that
very
you asked,
complicated in my experience, my limited experience. Yeah.
the other question that you asked is about somebody who has an independent supplier. And if that person would call or notify in some way the Valley Green Energy aggregation that they want to switch, the aggregation will accomplish that switch for them.
Okay. And the one last, when you talked about the Texas wind and all that, I know something about that, but my hope for, Green 2050, my personal from people that I've talked to is about the hydro coming from Quebec. So are you going to count the hydro coming from Quebec as being New England energy if we ever get it to come?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Because New England is not Quebec, and that's where the hydro is. I personally feel that's the big hope for 2050 myself.
It's mostly based on wind and solar that is in New England that is currently being purchased under the aggregation. And I don't know about future generating facilities such as hydro from Quebec and whether that will be considered in the purchase of RECs.
You don't know. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Lisa M. has her hand raised.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm just wondering, and if this has been answered at some other point somewhere, I apologize, but I'm wondering what happens to the low income rate from National Grid, if that is honored or ceases to exist. So if anyone knows the answer to that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
I don't. Adele, do you?
Yes, I do. The low income discount will continue to apply. And so therefore, the person who is affected by that could either choose to be enrolled in the default product and still get the discount applied, or could opt down to the budget rate, which does require them to get on the web page and opt down, and also still get the low income discount.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great, thank you for that clarification.
Thank you. Any additional questions? I will go through the questions on the in the chat. Basically, someone asked when the start date for this program is, and Alex responded in November. And that if this is a sort of this is an important phone number. This is and also the email Rachel put in the chat. And the email is support@valleygreenenergy.org, or call them at 1-844-202-6033. So just if there's more things.
Repeat, please. Could you repeat that?
Sure. It's also in the chat. It's in, if you open your chat room.
Okay.
See that. Do you want me to repeat it still? I'll repeat it just because sometimes it's a little confusing glitch and something happens. Okay, 1-844-202-6033. So if you have additional questions, please give them a call. And I want to specifically give a shout out to Adele. She wasn't invited, but she's just been such an incredible source. And I'm so glad you're out there and doing this job for us, because it is complicated, and it's changing our norm, and that's always a red flag, and we really do need, sometimes we need a little hand holding and direction. And a special thanks for Alex and Rachel, who also seem to know the system very well. Appreciate your sharing your knowledge with us. Let me
Thank you.
And just to add, Linda, that Adele's been an incredible resource for not just the community, but for city government. And as a counselor, I've been regularly, using her as a resource for all my terms. So yeah, it's community members can have a huge impact, especially folks who are so well informed.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
So, anyway, are there any other questions? Just raise your hand and Nina will find you, because I seem to like lose the hands in this translation here.
There are no other hands raised, and we only have about 20 minutes left. So I'm thinking maybe we should move on. People had some questions about the ballot measures.
Well, let's take Betsy's and then we will move on. Betsy,
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that.
looks
That's
like a
right.
real hand.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out how to get that icon up there. So all of this talk about community co-op power, community solar, I don't know if that's the same thing as what I have, which is used to be called Community Solar. Now it's run by AES.com. It's a subscription service. The power panels are in north of Worcester somewhere. And I joined up with them about 10 years ago. I think I got another 10 years on the contract, but I can't figure out from the language that you're using if this is an independent supplier of electricity or how this works and whether I should opt out or not opt out. Does that make any sense?
Adele?
I don't either, because my guess is that it is community solar, since that's what you signed up for. And I can't imagine that they're going to hold you to a 10-year contract, but in any case, I don't know the answer to your question.
Okay.
I could, but I don't know that much more, but I know that on the bill, it says where your supply comes from. So, they say supply services and then the supplier. And if that's someone other than National Grid, then you would be signed up with a different supplier.
Well, my bill says what I get is credits that get sent to National Grid.
So that means it's community solar, and
Okay.
you're fine. And if you got the postcard and the letter,
Right.
that means you've been automatically enrolled.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. And Nina, I have a quick question. Dave and I were talking before we started here, and I shared that you're going to be sharing for those people who couldn't attend here, that you were going to share the recording. And he suggested we share the recording to all our people that were invited. What do you think of that idea?
I was going to send the link out. Let me just remove all the spotlights now that everyone we're back to a full meeting. I was assuming that I would send it out to the same mailing list as we all have. That with everybody that I send it to.
Perfect.
So,
okay. We're happy. Thank you.
Yeah, it'll go, the list will go, the recording will go to, I send it out to 600 people in Florence and Leeds. So the recording will go to them as well.
Okay, thank you. And just a quick follow-up before we will get into these questions. At 12 o'clock, there's a Zoom with Lauren Devine, I believe that's it, from Hampshire County Medical Reserve. And it's how to build emergency kits. So everyone's invited to go to that too. And excuse me, I'm just gonna have, I know you're hearing my husband's phone.
No,
Okay.
no.
Oh, good, thank you. It had the Grateful Dead playing, so anyway, sorry if that was interfered with my talking. But anyway, that's that you all received the invite on that. And then I'll say a few things towards the end, just before we clear up, and if I get within Nina's cutoff point. Otherwise, we'll see you next month. Okay, well, Madge actually.
Thanks all.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, Alex and Rachel, are there any other red flags that we should be thinking about from the the council perspective?
About the ballot questions, or
Not so much the ballot, well, this is probably just anything out there that you want us to, start really paying attention to. Not that we don't pay attention to everything you're doing, but sometimes it's a little complex out there in council land.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a number of things we could talk more about, but we should come to another meeting so there's time to discuss them. I don't want to derail your.
All right, then
your-
we'll put you on the agenda next month. Thank you so much. Rachel?
Yes, I just wanted to, I will let you all, I want to give you guys all time to speak, but I'm working on the Yes on 4 campaign. I feel very passionately about the ballot question 4. I think it's a real net plus to have options, end of life options for treating PTSD. The veterans are all behind it. And so please reach out if you'd like to discuss it with me, if you have any concerns, but I want you all to be able to discuss it. So I'm not going to take over, but I'm a resource on Yes on 4.
Okay. You're a yes on 4. Okay. Well, tell us, we are going to discuss it, and you are a resource. So give us a few comments on it. I'd really appreciate of somebody who's done their homework.
Well, Northampton, I actually had passed a resolution several years ago decriminalizing substance use around psychedelics in Northampton. It's aspirational, but it is something that is generally kind of respected. So there's the issue of criminalization of substance use, which is a whole interesting conversation that you could have, and then whether it's really effective anyway to make substances illegal and arrest users of them. But this is really about being able to provide new types of care for for treatment resistant depression and mental health issues. And there's been incredible success. I mean, the data coming out of studies on using low levels on and therapeutic supervised psychedelic medicine for PTSD are really amazing, and they get pushbacks often from some amount of big pharma who would like to push their own medications. But the FDA is studying it, and there's really not a negative. They're not physically addictive substances, the 5 substances that would be allowed. They'd be highly regulated, just like any substance, but it would just give options to folks who really don't find success with some sort of medications. So I don't see, to me, I'd just like to have as many options for those who are struggling out there that we can give.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I know we're supporting that. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
And Madge had she was the first one that sent, Lisa, before we go on to the next.
Yeah, I'll be very brief. Can you hear me? I'm using earbuds.
Perfect.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I really want to endorse that measure. It's kind of self-revealing, but after a lifetime of every antidepressant and none of them working, clinical ketamine made a difference. It was the only thing that did. So I just am really fully behind making this available for treatment-resistant depression.
Thank you.
That's it. Thanks.
Okay. Madge Briggs, who's on, had a question about she would like a little bit of discussion on the minimum wage for tipped workers, because she's confused. Does anyone have any thoughts on the minimum wage for tipped workers?
Well, I up until this point, the minimum wage did not apply to tipped workers, which meant that, for instance, people who work in restaurants, they do not earn the minimum wage because they're expected to fill that gap with tips. That is not the case most of the time, but that is what the original law implied. Now, this would enforce a minimum wage for all restaurant workers who are theoretically are getting tips.
Okay, I started talking to a few of the tipped workers that I've been going to various restaurants, and the ones that I have talked to don't want this to come through. And part of it is they have an alliance with the management, and some of the management you know, are kind of struggling in this economy, and you know, this would probably put them under. Yeah, I think, you know, it's like almost it's one restaurant you talk to, and then another one has, you know, meets their standards. It's I think this is a very difficult decision. But what are your thoughts? I mean, you know, I hear you, and it really makes sense. But you know, I'm still debating, and I'm gonna every single restaurant I go in, I'm going to talk to the servers on this to see if it's going to be very beneficial for them.
So their concern was that if this law passed, that they couldn't hire as many workers, that it would hurt the owner, that prices would go up. What?
All of the above, yeah.
I still think that anyone who works for a living deserves a minimum wage.
Right, well, they were saying that because through the tip system, they get beyond their minimum wage. But again, it's, you know, if you're working at Friendly's, it might not be the same if you're working at Eastside Grill. You know, it's really a struggle. But, you know, I don't know. Anybody have any comments? What are your thoughts on this? Madge, did you do some homework, and what did you find out?
Well, that's why I'm confused, because I have done quite a bit of research, and they would pool the tips at the end to give, I mean, at the end of the night, to give some of the dishwashers and people who do not receive tips an even, you know, amount of tipping. So that would be over and above their minimum wage. So it's kind of a catch-22.
Right.
And it would increase the cost for the restaurant itself. And many of them are still struggling from after the pandemic.
Right. And I'm in agreement with Nina too, where everyone deserves a minimum wage.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
And I think if the restaurants are going to go out of business, or they have to raise their prices to meet the requirements of this law, look at it the other way. We've all been benefiting from lower prices because they don't have to pay their workers enough. And frankly, I'm happy to pay a little more to make sure that the people who wait on us and serve us in restaurants have a living wage.
Okay. All right, well, we have a few, poor Madge, I said, we're gonna solve your problem, but we didn't, we just caused more problems. But I'm really suggesting, like, you go into your favorite restaurant, talk to your waiters and waitresses. They're the ones that are online here and living this experience right now. But again, some places, I really don't know the answer, but I'm gonna talk a lot to a lot of people. So I'm satisfied. And imagine you and I can talk later if you want. We'll do our homework. All right. Thank you. Let's go. We have about 5 more minutes. State state auditor's authority to audit the legislature. Any thoughts on that one?
Well, that's going to go to court, and I think it's kind of set, and it's whether it's a yes or a no, it's got to go to court, and it's kind of crazy. I'd like to know what people think about the MCAS.
Okay, let's do the MCAS. I'm in support of taking it away. And your thoughts, anyone? And I'll tell you why in a few minutes. And I'm still trying to find the. Okay, so do we want MCAS in our schools, or do we want it not to be a standardized test to graduate from high school? Elimination of MCAS as high school graduation requirement. That's the way, that's the reading. My thought is, I grew up being dyslexic, which makes testing really difficult for me. And made the PSATs and all of those very, very difficult. And I'm finding out now that dyslexia, I mean, they did not conform their standardized tests to the needs of a person with dyslexia. Maybe they do now, because that was like the dinosaurs were walking around when I had to deal with that stuff. And I just feel, I know when it first came in, there was a lot of concern because you had to teach within the guidelines of MCAS, and that kind of restricted your teaching style and everything. So I don't really need another MCAS test for me to to see my grandchildren struggle through the one more test when they could just learn at their level and also learn creatively and not always learn within a box requirements. But that's my thought. What are other people thinking about that?
I would just like to add that all the teachers that I know are completely opposed to MCAS, and so they're advocating yes on one because of the same reasons that Linda mentioned.
My dog is barking, I'm sorry, but I'm also talking, so it's kind of hard. All right, so, again, I think people are coming from different places. Nina, what's your thoughts on MCAS? Because you didn't have those problems.
No, I didn't grow up here, and my son did not go to school in the Northampton or the Massachusetts school system, so he didn't have to take the MCAS. I think I would listen to the teachers.
That's exactly right. That's how I feel about the tipping too. I want to listen to the wait staff. I want to listen to the teachers. I want to listen to the grassroots people that have to deal with it on a daily basis. The unionization for transportation network drivers, I'm supportive of all unions, but that's my feeling.
No, those as the mother of someone who drove for Lyft and Uber for many years, they need the work, but they're very exploited. And I just took an Uber the other day. I was down in Philadelphia, and she was going to receive less than 50% of what I paid. And I gave her a very big tip to compensate, but I think these folks need to unionize. This is not a niche industry now. They pretty much put a lot of taxi drivers out of business, and they really have very little control over the income that they get from these rides. So I would support it.
Okay. All right. I'm going, we really briefly, it sounds like we've got a little bit more homework.
One minute.
I have 1 minute and then we're all going to disappear. And Nina really likes this part.
No, it's just that there's another meeting and people are gonna want to join that meeting early, and they're gonna say, you can't join yet because there's another meeting going on. So I feel responsible. Speak, Linda, 1 minute.
Okay, we'll have Alex and Rachel on our next meeting. Our next meeting will be Monday, the 21st at 11 in October. And then remember, come to the JJ Pub Night, October 14th from 4 to 6. It's a good time to get the support from our neighbors. I'm finding that's what it's turning into, and I really enjoy that Monday night out. I think we're gonna call it quits unless there's something really pressing. Bye, Madge. Thank you. And we'll figure out these horrible, these challenging things. Appreciate you all for coming, and we'll see you next month.